You gotta know that I'm made of everything.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to According to Miss T. I am your host, Tanika, and let's just get right into it. Tonight's episode is entitled Losing Deshon. So in 2006, I started dating this guy, and he was younger than I was. But anyway, we were dating for about 2 years. And then at the end of the end of 2007, my cycle started getting weird. Like it was still coming, but it was like some days would be light, some days would be heavy. It wasn't consistent. And so in January, I decided to do a pregnancy test, and it came back positive. And again, he and I had been dating for about 2 years, so I was flabbergasted. I was just like, what? Could not believe it. But anyway, I went and got it confirmed at my doctor's office. They said, well, that's since you don't know because you were still having your cycle, I want you to go and have a sonogram so that we can determine, your date of conception and all of that good stuff. So I did that, no problem. I get to the doctor, right, to get, I went to get the sonogram, and the technician says, do you want to know the sex? Excuse me, ma'am, I know that you got to be at least 16 weeks or something like 12, 16 weeks before you can know the sex. And she said, yeah. So I said, wait. Y'all, I was 20 weeks pregnant. I was halfway through my pregnancy when it was confirmed that, when I finally got the appointment that I was pregnant. I thought maybe I was a couple of months. I was halfway through my pregnancy. Yeah. I remember asking my partner, I called him and I said, do you want the good or bad news first? And so he said, give me the bad news, right? So I said, well, I am a lot further along than I thought. And he said, well, what's the good news? I said, it's a boy. Oh my gosh, he was so excited. Oh, my son, my son, my son, my son. And clearly the conversation about whether or not I was going to have my baby didn't even come up. Again, I was already 20 weeks. I'm feeling flutters. At first I wasn't feeling nothing. It went from not feeling anything to immediately now I'm feeling flutters. The pregnancy was pretty normal outside of being extremely stressed because I already had 4 children. My youngest was almost 3, and my oldest at that time was maybe 9. Wait, let me see. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, he was 9. So I already had my hands full, right? But anyway, the pregnancy was pretty unproblematic. Everything went fine. My due date was July, and he was born. So my daughter's birthday is July 8th, 2005. My son, Deshon, was born July 5th, 2008. So the same numbers, 7805 and 7508. You guys, they were born at the same hospital, and they were both born at 9:30 in the morning. I know that's not the same hospital. Let me correct that. My son was born at Washington Hospital Center, but they were born at 9:30. They were both born at 9:30, and I thought that was the coolest and craziest thing at the same time. So, took the baby home. He was 8 pounds, 2 ounces, 20 and a half inches long. Beautiful baby boy. Sweetest baby. Loved to smile and all of that. And very early, he used to say, "Mom, mom, 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 mom." My nickname for him was Tuka Pop. I don't know where it came from, but Tuka Pop. Now, at this time, I had, again, my son was 9, and my sisters, they didn't have any boys. It was all girls, my 2 sons. So this time around, my youngest sister, she always wanted a boy. Oh my gosh, they used to talk about what she was going to do for him, and who was going to spoil him, and who was going to get him. Oh my God, it was crazy. And this came from my side of the family as well as my partner's side of the family. This was his first child, and it was his mom's first grandbaby. Oh, so my friends fell in love with him immediately. My kids, I remember my daughter Tatiana used to come home and go, and she had to be maybe 5 or 6, maybe she was 6. Yeah. And she used to come home, or going on 7, whatever. She used to come home from school and rush in the house so that she can lay him on her chest. Like every day she would come home and she would literally pick him up and put him on her chest to go to sleep. So I'll say about 2 months in, I remember one time he was drinking, taking his bottle, and he started gagging, like he just could not catch his breath. And I did not know why. And then for days, not for days. And then I noticed the pattern of his breathing changed. It was like a heavy, exasperated breath. So I remember taking him to the local hospital and it being so crowded and me sitting in there for so long and not being serviced, at all. And I ended up leaving because whatever was going on, it passed. And so it became a more regulated breath. So I felt comfortable and I said, I'll follow up with his doctor, and then maybe a month or so later, we went to go visit his dad. And because by this time he and I had went our separate ways. And I took him to go visit him, and he kept like looking away, like I couldn't get his attention for whatever reason. Like he was just like, I always chopped it up to, he was talking to the angels and all that good stuff. But anyway, again, we had the same, it was very cold outside, and I was standing outside and we were waiting to go see his dad, and he started breathing like that again, right? So I'm thinking because it's so cold, maybe that's what it is. So now we're at November. So it went back to normal again. So November, he had this fever for like a day, and I just could not break the fever. I did every old remedy. I tried Motrin, I tried everything, and I could not break my son's fever. I remember calling my aunt to ask her, because I didn't have a car at the time, to take him to the doctor, because my grandmother had a doctor's appointment at the same hospital. So while she was receiving her care, I decided to take him to the doctor as well, because again, now it's a pattern and now I can't break his fever. And I was at Washington Hospital Center, and I remember a nurse walking by and her noticing how he was breathing. And she came in and she pulled me back and she said, something's not right, because he's struggling to breathe. He's breathing with his muscles, because you can see it with his chest and in his stomach. Like you can see it going up and down. And so they rushed him to the back. And when we got to the back, they took his x-ray of his chest and decided that they wanted to take him from Washington Hospital Center to Children's, which if you're familiar with Washington, D.C., you know it's like right around the corner. But we left from Washington Hospital Center and we went to Children's. And when we get to Children's, they're doing all of these tests and all of that. And so ultimately they come back and they tell me that he has pneumonia. And I'm like, pneumonia? What is going on, right? So I call my mom and I'm bawling like, oh my gosh, my baby has pneumonia. I don't know how, when, where, why. And they're saying it's fluid in his lungs. And she's just like, calm down. He'll be fine. And all of that good stuff. And I remember them trying to, I don't know why they was trying to either get blood or it was something that they did where when they stuck the needle in his leg, he started bleeding. Like, I don't know if they were trying to like get a vein, whatever it was, but he started bleeding. And I still have those jeans. I just couldn't part with the jeans, but, yeah, so they're okay, so it's pneumonia. Okay, fine. So after that, they're going to admit him into the hospital, right? My mom is like, oh, that's normal, whatever. By the next day, there is social services who comes in, and she's like, she wants to talk to me and all of this stuff, and I'm like, what are you talking about? So they come in and they tell me that my son has a heart condition. What do you mean a heart condition? So I'm thinking maybe, I really didn't know what to think. And so she tells me that it's a heart condition known as pulmonary vein stenosis. And I'm like, what the heck is that? She gives me all of this information about it, and I'm Googling it, trying to find out as much information as I can. And I'm still not understanding, but the short version is pulmonary vein stenosis is when there is a tear in the veins that circulates the blood to and from the heart and the lungs. There was a tear in it, right? Okay, so she starts to tell me that there is basically no cure for it. And he will have to be, he'll have to go through a lot of surgeries and all of this stuff. And they're going to have to do surgeries and all of that stuff. And basically he'll have to have ongoing care for the rest of his life. So she's like, bring me all the paperwork for me to, for social services and all of that stuff, just to know what to expect and all of that. At this time, they're still draining like the fluid from his heart, right? So it went from pneumonia, because the way they found out it wasn't pneumonia is because every time they would drain the fluid out of his chest and out of his lungs, it was filling back up. So normally with pneumonia, once it's drained, it's not filling back up. But with pulmonary vein stenosis, because of that tear, basically they were talking about putting like a balloon effect or putting like a knot or something to tie it to keep it from doing that. Okay. So whatever, that is what I was expecting. I was gearing up for that. And then they had me sign this consent where basically for his care. And no matter what they were doing, they started talking about doing the surgery for him to put the balloon in there to tie it off. And they called in a specialist, like a heart specialist, one of the top. He flew in to prepare for this surgery. And I can't, it's such a blur who was at the hospital with me. But I remember him coming, and after they did the assessment and all of that stuff, and at this time they got all these tubes on my baby. I hated seeing him like that. Nothing I did at this point, whatever, once they put the tubes and stuff in him, he went into, they couldn't wake him up, right? And so I'm having this conversation with the doctor. They have the doctor come in, and the doctor basically explains to me that it's no longer a tear in the vein. This was the worst case he had ever seen. And in his case, the vein had completely separated from the heart, and it was completely separated. It was no longer attached. And basically, this was their way of coming to tell me that there was nothing else that they can do for my beautiful baby boy. That I asked them at that point, how long did he have? Because I'm in complete disbelief at this point. I brought my baby in for a fever, and I went from pneumonia. This is my happy baby boy who would smile and try to talk and just get loved on from everybody. And this beautiful baby, you're telling me that he's dying from a broken heart. And I really, really could not wrap my hands around it. My mind around it. And so I asked them, how long did he have? How much time did I have left? And I remember the doctor telling me that he wouldn't make it out the hospital. So if anybody wanted to see him or spend time with him, the time was now, because he wasn't going to make it out. Okay. So I started calling on my family. I started calling my sisters and my mom, and my children have been staying with my sister this time because I wouldn't leave the hospital. This is my son. I'm not going anywhere. And they hadn't seen him since we went to the hospital. They haven't seen their mom either, right? And so I think my sister brought my kids up there basically for them to say goodbye. And they came up to see their brother one last time. And it was so hard because they hadn't seen their mom either. So trying to keep it together, and I would not allow myself to cry because I knew that they were suffering, right? My son had 3 sisters and had been wanting a brother for so long. And so I tried to not necessarily keep a smile on my face, but hold it together for them. And so when they weren't around, I did a lot of crying. I did a lot of praying, and I try to understand, but it was very, very hard to understand what was going on. But God kept me. And so my kids came to say their byes to their brother. It was so hard, guys. I remember they forced me I had been at the hospital. Now, the good thing about children's is they do have accommodations for the parents. They have beds, and they have, you can take showers and all of that there. But I did not have clothes. I hadn't been out of the hospital in 3 or 4 days. And so I left to go home, wanted to spend time with my children for a bit before I went back to just basically get out of that environment. I remember going to Giant, but my mind just wasn't together. I lost my wallet, my ID, and honestly, this guy came to me and was like, asking me what was wrong. And I'm like, I'm trying to hurry up and get back to the hospital because my son is in there. But I just lost my wallet. And I feel like this guy was trying to talk to me. But then I really believe in my heart that he found his whole disposition changed. But I think he found that wallet and kept it and maybe felt guilty. So he had to get out of there as fast as he can. That's what I really believe happened. But I had lost my wallet and I'm losing my mind at the same time. Right. But now I'm really crying because all my money and everything, it's just gone, right? It's gone. At this time, my son is like 4 months old, right? We're preparing for Thanksgiving. Anyway, I rushed back to, I got my change of clothes, spent some time with my kids. I went back to the hospital. And then I'm telling my sisters and them, now he's on life support at this point. And so they're basically telling me to have everybody come up there, and I watched them disconnect my son from all of the cords and all of the everything that they had him attached to. And when they did, I remember my aunt Cheryl coming there, and my sister Erica, and them crying and crying and crying and saying that, I remember my sister Erica holding him and crying and basically saying how I just don't want to let him go. I don't want to let him go. And my aunt brings this up all the time. She held him as he took his last breath. Anytime she goes, or if she sees a butterfly or whatever, she feels like that's his spirit just kind of letting her know that he's okay. And he passed away he was born July 5th, 2008. And he took his last breath on November the 20th of the same year. He was 4 months and 15 days. His uncle had only got a chance to meet him one time, his dad's brother. And we actually gave him, his middle name was after his uncle. And if I'm not mistaken, he passed away on his uncle's birthday. Y'all, it was so hard. And still having a 3-year-old, a 7, 8, and 9-year-old in the process, who's trying to process their feelings and loved everything about this kid, and me grieving. That definitely was the hardest thing that I ever had to endure in my entire life. And every year, I still tell him happy birthday. He would have been 18 this year. 18. It's crazy. And every year, I tell him to rest in peace on November the 20th, the day he joined our ancestors. It's so crazy because I used to go see my grandfather all the time. And I remember the last time I took my son to go see him, and I knew he wasn't feeling well, but I took my son to go see him, and he was not feeling well, like I said, and he was just like in his bed. And that's the first time that he didn't get up. And that's how I knew my grandfather was very big on his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren. And so when my son died, I think he felt a little bit of guilt because he didn't get up to come and greet me as he usually do. And that was the first time that I can remember really seeing my grandfather break down and cry so bad. He cried, and that was the hardest thing for me to see, because he had just lost his grandson, and he didn't even get a chance to see him the last time before he passed away. Yeah, so everything is, after that, everything is a blur. Everything is a blur. I just, I celebrate him every year. Sometimes I go to the grave site. And sometimes it's just too hard to go to the grave site. One year I gave him a birthday party, and we all wore white, blue and white, and my friends and my family came out to celebrate his life. And we released balloons and all. It was so beautiful. Sometimes I'll go and I'll look at the memory book that they give you from the funeral home, because I can't remember who was there. I can't tell you what I wore. I can't tell you what I put on my children. I can't tell you who was there. All I know is my first cousin Denzel put together like the obituary for me. I know my parents, but my mom was there. I know that all my aunties was there. I know his godfather was there and his grandparents and my friends. The only way I know who was there, honestly, is because I go back and I look at the memory book, and they signed the book. I know it was some people from like his grandmother's job, but that day was all a blur. I do remember my Aunt Tina coming and loving on me and, bringing some food. But everything else, y'all, it's a blur. It is a blur. And I remember his pediatrician. She has been my kid's pediatrician since my son will be 27 this year, so for their entire lives. It is still hard for them to like go to a different doctor because they aged out of going to her, because she's such a good doctor. And honestly, she was one of the people who helped me cope. She helped, she helped bless us with monetarily. She blessed me with a book for the kids. I can't think of the name of the book. She encouraged me. She told me that it would take probably about 3 years for me to be able to really get through without breaking down and crying. And she was so right. It took about 3 years for me to comfortably even have a conversation like this. And y'all, I'm still healing. As a mother, I'm still healing. And the pain never goes away. It just becomes easier to tolerate, right? And deal with and process. And I still have moments where I'll think about something and I'll cry. And I'll go into my quiet space and I still cry for my son. Milestones like this, again, he's turning 18. He would have been turning 18 this year. I'm sure I'm going to cry. I'm definitely going to go to the gravesite and show some love. But I think about him. This would have been time for me. I would have been preparing for his prom. I think he would have been a little player, right? He was so handsome with his little, smooth complexion, and he had my dimples and everything. And I think about how I would have been getting him ready for the prom, and the little girls trying to be my friend because he would have had his dad's personality and trying to be a player and all of that stuff. I think about all of that stuff. And how spoiled he would have been between, it was so bad because my mom and his mom were so obsessed with my son and loved him so much. And I just can only imagine how he would have been if he was still here. So in celebration of Deshon Michael, I'm making this video as my podcast today, Losing Deshon. Life did not go on for him, but I still have to live. I still had to continue to live and be a parent to my children. And I think a lot of times people will tell me about how much I still do for my kids and how protective I am when it comes to them. Even though they're young adults, they're still my babies. And I think part of that is because of that fear. And sometimes it's overcompensation for what I couldn't do for him, or how I couldn't protect him, or how I couldn't heal his broken heart. One of the hardest things that I'm still trying to do is not blame myself. Was it something I took? Was it something I did? Was it something, what why? Right? And not feel the guilt or blame myself for my son not being here. So I'm still working to forgive myself and love on your children. And let me say this as well. All of my children are priceless to me. Every single one. I love them differently. I love them intently. And it doesn't matter how young or how old. Losing a kid is devastating. It is devastating. And everybody heals different. Everybody feels different and all of that. So please don't downplay when somebody still goes through it, right? Or because you process stuff differently. It's hard and it hurts. So if you can't be kind, just keep your mouth shut. But if you got a moment or you got a chance to continue on living and you are still living, take a day at a time. Take it day by day, one day at a time. And allow yourself to grieve. If you need, don't act like it didn't happen. It doesn't matter how long it's been. I have 5 children. I have gave birth to 5 children. Y'all, I've done everything to try to heal that void in my space. I have, and with this AI thing, I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys no lie. I tried recently to just kind of put in like an old picture of him and do like the age progression thing to try to see what he would look like if he was still here. Would he look more like me? Would he look more like his dad? Would it be a combination? Do what you gotta do to heal your heart. People can tell you nobody can tell you what's right or wrong, or how you need to heal, or how you need to process. Do what is best for you. And if you need counseling, it's okay for that too. By the grace of God, my coping mechanism has never been drinking or smoking or anything like that. I just process and deal, and I pray, I cry, and I'm not an angel, and I'm not better than anybody else. This has just been my journey. I feel everything. Now, I feel for my children. I feel for his dad. I feel for his other grandmother. I feel for my family. I feel for me. God had a different plan. He had a different plan. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in. And until the next time, I love you. Take care.